what I'm trying to work on now is that I would like to instill this habit also into my kids. Now they're young, but I think the younger you, or when you start, it's good to start and instill the habit as soon as possible. So get them to do a routine workout or something like that, which they can then use and instill as a habit, so they use that throughout their adult life as well. So what's your advice to fathers that want to start building in this habit of working out or having their kids working out? And what's the best approach to inspire them and to instill this as a habit?
Well, with children, it's about making it fun. The more game based you can make it, little challenges and things, setting up like a little assault course and saying, right, I'm gonna time you to get around this. How quickly do you think you can do it? You're gonna compete against your brother or your sister or whatever, and put in obstacles that will kind of be harder for one and easier for another, and vice versa, to set them little challenges and have a go at yourself, and say, right, I did it in this time. What time can you do it? Can you beat dad? That kind of thing. I find that works really well. It obviously depends on the age of your children as to what you're doing with them like that. But setting up those kind of challenges, I find that kind of instills a bit of self-competition. So as well as competing against the siblings or other people, you can see if they start to get demotivated by not being able to compete, if they're kind of like the smaller sibling, then we start saying, how quickly can you do it? Can you do it again quicker this time? And I think having some sort of measure on it, and they can see they're improving rather than just doing something, I find that's really motivating for them. And even getting them to, silly things like, I was really lucky as a child. I had a really active childhood and had a lot of freedom. My parents were building a house over on a plot of land that had a lot of farm fields around them and all the rest of it. It's all built up into a big, domestic area now. But I could go and play openly in the fields, climb trees, run around, do all this kind of stuff. And I realized actually I was doing a lot of training in that time, and it wasn't specific to anything, not specific to a sport, but there's a lot of general different movements that I was practicing, pulling myself up into trees and things like that. I think everyone's hung there and tried swinging their legs up and can't get it. And then that day that you manage to get up and I'm on top of the branch, all those kind of little milestones, and encouraging your children to try and do it, and saying, you will get this. Keep trying. That's really encouraging. And I find that relevant role models of the children. For example, with my daughter, it's funny. I was scrolling back through videos and pictures in Facebook and on the devices and things, and there was a video of my daughter when she was actually 5 years old, and my wife was doing chin-ups in the gym, and there's my little daughter in a tutu, dancing tutu, and she was hanging off of a bar and copying mum and doing chin-ups, and she managed to do 4 full body weight chin-ups, and she was only 5, and I'd forgotten she'd kind of done that. And that wasn't that she was training for anything. She was just copying mum, and she saw it as a challenge. How many can we do? Mum's doing more. I'll try and do more. And I think that sort of fun and encouragement and almost a bit of a measurement that so they can see some progress really makes a big difference. But I think the key is to remember that, especially with young children, it is about finding something that's fun. And I think encouraging activity is more important than perhaps encouraging a sport specifically, because I was invited quite often when my children were at the different schools. Once the teachers found out what I did, they wanted me to come in on like the well-being days and things like that, and I'd come in and coach like a Thai boxing class or something. And it was really interesting that you'd get lots of kids that kind of had to come and do that activity, and you could see some of them were like, "Oh, I don't want to do this. I've told I have to do this." And there was a lot of them that you could see didn't consider themselves sporty, and they were reluctant to even try. And then you get them to do something that's like a solo activity, like punching a pad or something that's not team dependent. They're not letting anybody else down. It's just about what they could do. You could see this spark ignite that, oh, I can do this, and I actually quite enjoy it. And it was the kids that that weren't necessarily, didn't consider themselves sporty at all, and they wouldn't be doing anything else, but they found, because they experimented, that they actually like to hit pads. They might never competing in it. You know, they just find it's fun and it's keeping them active. And I always made a point with those classes to say to all of the kids in that class that you might not consider yourself sporty, you might not think you like activities, but try lots of different ones, because I guarantee it's just you haven't found one you like yet. When you find one that you like, you will love doing it. And it's, if my example is that I love Thai boxing, I love those sort of contact sports. If I thought all sports were like cricket, for example, I wouldn't be interested. Just that doesn't work for me, you know. I'd get bored. And if that's what I associated with sport and activity, I'd have been turned off and never done anything else. But because I played around with lots of other things and found ones that was not in the curriculum at school, that I loved doing, that was it. That was the spark, and off I went. And I think if you encourage your kids to experiment and support them in trying lots of different things, if they want to try a different club to go and do something, take them along. They might not be, you know, someone who's going to do that professionally, but they'll develop movement patterns that they'll need in later life, and that actually become wasted. There's a term. This I'm going to share this one with you. It's called motor morons. Okay, so it's something that I find when I coach adults, there are certain movement patterns that they just can't do. I get them to try and do a movement in the gym, and it's obvious their body has just never seen this before at all. They're not coordinated with it. And it could be as simple as throwing with the opposite hand, you know, but it's a window of opportunity they had as a child. They never played that way or never did a sport that built that particular skill, that movement. And as an adult, it's now completely missing. So typically between the ages of 9 to 12, there's like this window to develop skill. It's slightly different with boys and girls of how they mature at different rates. But it's kind of like, as an adult, it's easier to learn a language when you're younger. I mean, I'm hopeless at languages. I mean, you're great, class, with your, you know, was it Dutch, Spanish, English? You know, you've got all of those. And I'm guessing you probably did quite a lot of different languages as a child. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's kind of easier to pick up at that stage. It's not that you can't pick it up as an adult. It's just, it's a lot harder. You're not programmed that way. And it's the same with physical movement. If as a child, you haven't worked in a specific way or developed a certain pattern of movement, as an adult, it's much, much harder for you to pick it up. And you've got that kind of illiteracy in your vocabulary of movement. So the kids that are kind of deemed sporty are the ones that played and did lots of different things and didn't kind of just stick to one thing, didn't sort of specialize too early, if you like. Lots of different movement patterns. So kind of really, really encourage that, and try and get your kids to do as many different activities as possible, and just see which ones spark them up. It might be some really obscure stuff, but it's great when they find that spark and they want to do that.
Great, thanks for sharing that.